and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this beautiful nature video episode with me. And today, once again, I found myself in this beautiful sacred space in the Italian Alps, which is right across the border here where I live in Slovene Alps. And there's beautiful twin lakes, which I haven't visited for quite a while, and I felt very prompted to do so. Now, I had a beautiful development in my personal life because ever since we moved to the Alps, I really wanted to have a four-wheeler car, a tiny little miniature, like a wagon car, a four-wheeler kind of Jeep type of car, and I finally got one. I was just so excited, which really brought me into the space of more expanded horizontal living. And everything is a relationship, even the relationship we had with our car, with our sacred space where we live, but mostly for me, it is outdoors in nature. But this is just a tiny little introduction before I start today's topic, which is moving even deeper into true nature of relationships, what they are for us. And I want to discuss some of the concepts which I feel we have been tapping into quite superficially for a very long time. And so today's video is about the nature of relationships for creation pillars, which is working at the very root of creation and the main archetypes, which there are many, but basically when it comes up to what we have been playing out in this world of creation and where we're now on this beautiful planet Earth. So where this is leading us in our development and how we can move even deeper. So let me start by saying that personally, everything I go through, it's an essence, but then I also need to experience it. And I will start by saying that in this New Age movement, in the spiritual circles, there was a lot of talking about, needing to manifest things and to have relationships that suit us and our soul. And, when something doesn't serve you, let it go. And a lot of this letting go was very linear, was very much coming from the perspective of not understanding why we even have relationships, what they even mean for us when we really do the most deepest, profound inner work. This is not just about shadow versus light. This is about fusing the main archetypes that we have been playing out for eons and eons. So this lifetime we live now is a continuation of other realities, of other lifetimes, and it's not separate from what we have been experiencing as a cosmic being, as a cosmic master. And now as we live it here on Earth, it's coming out as it is. So when we were playing out certain archetypes, a lot of us have felt, this not need to have a physical experience. We said, I already know it all, so why would I go and have this relationship? Or, the negation of it in general. So we had certain experiences, but they were to lead us ever deeper into our true sovereign presence as masters in training. And when we knew things so much and we understood things so deeply, we didn't always want to go and have the experience because we had a knowing where it will lead us. And a lot of times we wanted to prevent the experience itself before it even happened. But this didn't go. I'm sure you had a relationship where you really didn't want to go in it, and you were kind of like, trying to resist it, but there it was. And it just kept coming back. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. The coming back relationships, which are here to tell us what are we actually fusing and merging within ourselves. What is evolving, maturing, and expanding within our own human experience. And the human experience is what makes us evolve as a race of beings and makes us become who we are as a new developing human being. I call it the Homo Luminous. And you might call it whatever, the new human, the new earth, whatever. But it is about us really merging with the aspects that before, on this cosmic level of this unfoldment through relationships, a lot of this was basically, up until this point, was based on the letting go, or trying to negate certain aspects of us. But cosmically speaking, and our earthly experience, because it's a direct reflection, as above, so below. So what's happening in the cosmos and our stellar self and our multidimensional self is also unfolding here on this planet. And the reason for this is because we're being so strongly called into relationship energy and the relating with each other now that we can't escape it. It's right there in front of our noses. And why? I will let you know here, for those of you who are working really at the root level of creation, how this might be your experience, and you have to resonate with what really feels within yourself. It's just knowing, it's not like we can teach each other, because Spirit told me it's just we're no longer at this point of, student teacher. We're just basically co-creator beings, because those of us who really have stepped into our sovereign nature, we just wish to live it and share it with each other. We no longer wish to play these archetypes of, okay, I'm teaching you, now I'm learning from you. Basically, it's just playing, it's just co-creating. That's where we are now, a lot of us. So that's where relationships, before we have been seeding so much in this, we have been putting a lot of effort. And for a certain relationship to be sustained in our reality, there had to be a lot of seeds planted. And we didn't always get that same result back, especially right up front. And a lot of that is coming now. It's really coming. There's less need for confrontation energy. There's less need to work so hard to manifest or to make conditions ripe or plausible. It's because we have been really establishing this platform, this foundation for the new way of relating, and now we're feeling is playing out. And I will tell you these main archetypes that are playing out. And when you bridge them together, when you bridge this gap that was there for so long, then we're going to feel, but what's coming next. But first I want to say something is, before the fall, a lot of this human experience was based on, never do that again. So because there was an experience of the fall and us abusing our power, a lot of humans were abusing their power, and they had abilities that they weren't yet ready to sustain, to nurture in the way that's properly balanced and with purity and serving truly the life force of spirit. So because they weren't yet fully mature, they created this almost like a filter of the human experience that said, up until the point when you really mature again, you can't do this. You can't do it the same way, because no experiment will ever be repetitive. We're going to go about this the new way. So I'm talking about the ancient Atlantis, and how we used to relate there at the end days, and how certain groups of beings were really called to plant the seeds for what will be the next cycle to come. And human experience from that point on, from the fall on, and up until where we are now, it's the major resurgence of that and reawakening has been basically based on evolving to the point where we are ready. And that's why a lot of the beings that are here incarnate now and that had those abilities, they still feel they have them. They're not always already embodied, they're dormant, and still there's a knowing that we can be so much more telepathic, that our communication is much more heart-centered, how we use energy to create. But a lot of it had to deal with our readiness to be at a certain point of relating, because this ascension now where we are, it's heart-based ascension. So it has to deal with us embracing every aspect of how we relate to the world at large, which mainly is coming through the relationships that we form with one another, because that's how we most rapidly learn to integrate through that knowingness that comes through a certain relationship. There's a certain energy coming, and we don't always know what it's about, but it is something very strong. And if there were people in our lives that we felt at times, oh, they don't serve us, or they don't support our path, they're not like we are, they don't necessarily have the love quotient we do, and we wanted to eliminate them. We said, oh, I don't want this relationship, or I don't want that. That was the eliminating, controlling part of us that said, never again Atlantis, or never again this. I'm not going to allow this imbalance to come in between the human experience again. But we are now much more sovereign, much more ready, much more willing, and these aspects want to be called out. They want to be birthed again, so we can no longer put this pause button and say, ooh, I'm not going to have this relationship, or I better just let it go. So a lot of this, the letting go, is this new age concept that continuously keeps us in the loophole, because relationships, when we really approach them through the level of understanding that when certain souls come together to serve each other, to serve one another, through sometimes mirroring aspects to you that you weren't even aware of yourself. This is such love, and it's based on love and these soul agreements that we don't always understand, and we think of them as, oh, this is a negative relationship, or this is a negative experience, oh, this is so hard, why does this keep coming back to me? Well, the easiest thing for us to do was pull the plug and say, oh, I'm going to let that go. That person, that situation, whatever it was that felt uncomfortable for us, something that we say, that's not aligned with our soul. But prior to letting go, we didn't integrate. And now, where we are now, we understand that there is no letting go without first integrating what was there for us to see, fusing these archetypes so we can return to our purity and the wholeness of our human experience, so that we can once again relate to each other through wholeness, each first becoming whole unto ourselves before we can relate to each other through the purity of love. And recently I had an experience when I met a person, not physically, but a part of my group and a part of my purpose group, that the love was so intense, the bubble was so intense, was really beautiful. And that was the kind of love we wish to experience as new humans. And although with maybe other relationships or other beings, we're still playing out certain aspects of us that aren't yet fully withheld within that safety of the wholeness of within and the purity and sustenance and brotherhood, sisterhood, then we're still seeing maybe which aspects are playing out. So we can say, oh, I'm going to let that go, I'm going to let the person go, but it will continuously come back as an energy essence, which is basically what that relationship is there for anyway. And when we see every single being in our life as an essence of ourselves, that, recently someone said to me, well, we all meet each other, so we take back soul particles of ourselves back and claim them back. And I thought, no, we don't really leave energy prints into others. We used to have this belief, right, in the New Age, and we said, oh, I left soul aspects or soul parts within that person, and now I'm claiming them back. But what's really taking place is something that we didn't yet fully integrate and embody. We're coming now to redo, to try again. It's not even trying, we're doing it. So it's basically an infusion. When two beings come together, they will create a fusion of energy, which will be needed to process and integrate it. Otherwise, it's just going to be continuously moving in a linear way, when in truth, relationships are also a spiral. And a lot of the people see them in a linear way. They meet someone, they have expectations from them, they see where this, for example, this road is going, and they see it such a way. So something doesn't fulfill the expectation around the relationship, they say, oh, I'm going to let the person go because they clearly don't respect me, or they don't deserve me, or, they're obviously not on my path. But this game of deserving and letting go because it doesn't serve you or fully sustain you is still very old, because it's still based on separation, you see. When we finally realize that there is no such thing, oh, this person deserves me, or my presence, or this person doesn't, it's just aspects of us that are shown to us that still participate either in separation or they participate in unity. So we will have different relating experiences to show us different aspects, so that in the end we can fuse them together. And when I went through certain experiences, I'm going to tell you then a bit later about these archetypes that are playing out, I started seeing everyone as something that I was planting seeds into. And that maybe not necessarily got to a fruition point right away, but there was really love in it. And a lot of times the experience of that was prevented because of this higher authority that was without us, so outside of us, said, no, never again this, so I'm going to protect you. Because there were still remnants of this heaviness that we carried within. So we created this, and we created these archetypes. We said, well, this will be this archetype, and that one will be, experienced that way, and that one maybe will be the safety guard or the controller within me. And what took place was a lot of the experience were prevented because we said, ooh, I don't want it to repeat that again. But this is only up till the point that we really master ourselves. Because when we become a sovereign, we can have any experience and we will know how to deal with it, because we will be fully embodied and we will trust our life force and where it needs to move without thinking, well, that will just hurt me again, or that exchange with the energy with this person or that person will make me feel again. See the linear projection of what this can be, an assumption to your past. But this no longer exists. And there is no such thing as, oh, you let that person go because they don't deserve you or they're not exactly as you. This is very much still superficial understanding. That person which is there in your life, until they need to be, they will be. Sometimes you probably experienced that you wanted to really push away someone, but they still kept resisting. There was resistance and they still kept persisting in your life. And you said, what am I supposed to do? And you tried to do everything, and people tried to cut the cords. They try to do spells for people to go away out of their lives, anything but to really do the integration work. That's the hardest aspect, but it's most beautiful, because when you integrate the essence that each one reflects you back as a mirror, then you really become a master of your own essence. And you start working on the level of essence self, not just the projected linear reality self that's very tiny, it's very minute in comparison to your major grandiose self that is limitless in nature. So when we have this relation experiences in the new, it will no longer be about this person's not equally giving them me, or they're not as equally deserving me, or these stories we tell ourselves on the surface. Everything that was truly being played out is underneath the surface. It's just that when we are more aware of it, it starts to bring itself back to the surface. And the awareness is there again, and it shows us what needs to be accepted and integrated within us. So let me get to these archetypes. Recently, my beautiful goddess sister of light, Katrina, she's from Sacred Mysteries, and she has a channel that I mentioned to you before on YouTube called Sacred Mysteries. And she recently made a couple of her last videos about these archetypes that were basically on a creation level playing out. And I don't want to repeat that because she already explained it in a beautiful way. So I would like to address this topic from my own perception and from my own wisdom rather than repeat what she was saying. But do check that out because she spoke about the main archetypes being played out in this day and age, but basically collectively as well, and from ancient times, because this is just a circle that we are completing. It's not just a circle we are completing during our own lifetime or a few past lives. This is a cosmic unfolding, people. So what's taking place is she explained that you have, for the females and for the males, playing out within ourselves. The woman, the female, has been playing out for eons and eons the shadow woman, so the one who feels, who is almost like your beautiful essence of life that just wants to love. It just wants to love, give love, receive love. And then you have the controller woman, which is the authority, the ice queen, she called it. And sometimes it's about, preventing you from being hurt. And, you want it this way, we'll go this way. And for the males, there's such a thing as the inner boy who's not always responsible for the experience, or just, postponing things and not fully claiming their own sovereign power. And then the other the other aspect is the controller male, which is more possessive, it's more dominating, it's more controlling. So when you have relationships, you will see that as these energies come into your life externally, and you in the beginning, you will want to resist them because you'll be like, why is this person like this? Oh, I don't like it. I don't want them to control me. But here's a very simple fact. That beautiful soul has come into your life to show you exactly what you're working on a creation level to bring back into the truth of divine love. Because the end result, it's not even the end, but the fusion of this is our beautiful divine child of creation. And when we will be like this, we will be again as pure, beautiful children of Source, just playing, just equally co-creating with each other. No more playing out these aspects, higher or lower, vertical, horizontal, teacher, student, all merged. Can you imagine all fused as one? And this is where we're moving with this new light experiment. Basically, it's just a beautiful play being written by us, by our higher selves, by the absoluteness of all life and creation, by Source. And so, let me go back to this. When we experience this as an external relationship in our life, being this dynamic, we gotta recognize this dynamic within us. So let me say, if I, as a female, will have a lot of this control playing out, and for me, in my life, for example, this was experienced as being very hard on myself, always wanting to work, never have time to play, everything has to be perfect, I'm just here to serve, very high priestess-like. It's okay. This aspect is beautiful when you use it in balance and when it doesn't override the other aspect. And when I'm with this, I get the relationship of the controller male. So they will just mirror me and they will want to possess me and claim me and all these things. This was my experience. When I fuse this, when I simply acknowledge this aspect within me, this controller aspect, I acknowledge also the controller male, because we both have masculine and feminine essence within us. Just as our principle of gender and our human scheme of things is being played out this way, so I also do this work for the other counterpart. And if I have a relationship like this, I will see it instantly shift when I do the inner work of acknowledgement, of honoring that aspect and bringing it into fusion with the other polarity, which is what she called the shadow woman, which is sometimes the repressed feelings, the repressed emotion for the sake of keeping it neutral, because our human experience will not always be neutral. That's the whole part, because for us to move creation forward, for us to bring life to a new cycle, to bring to deliver new things, to birth new things, there always needs to be a little bit of that, what I called a little friction. But it's no longer that dramatic friction. It's just that beautiful, I don't know how to call it in English, but there's like this feeling inside of like the bubble will burst, like bursting of the bubble, which creates divine passion, it creates soul passion, and that creates everything. So almost like the fire, when it starts, it always needs like a bit like that spark, that first spark, or when you ignite a car. So that ignition energy will always be there, and it does not come from that divine neutrality. Divine neutrality is for us to live simply as aspects of divine love. But when we create, there will always need to be a little of that spark. Like, for example, I wanted to buy a new car. I won't just be vertical and say, oh, I hope for it to happen. One day it will happen. I'm just going to wait and let it all come to be. There's that little spark. Sometimes you can experience it as a irritation for what you have now, or that little ignition. That keeps the energy of creation moving forward. And the same goes for our relationships. You know, a lot of people that I met said, oh, we don't want the feelings because they're bad, or they can be disruptive to our relationships, and we wanted to eliminate them. Even on a greater cosmic level, that's what we wanted to do for so long. But it didn't work, and many races in the cosmos created the experience of eliminating the emotional part. They became almost like robots. So they were seeking out other experiences to fuse, to create these hybrid type of beings that, again, wanted to bring back the integration of emotion. So the feeling side of life that we have here as humans, it's very intelligent, and the feeling side is so intelligent. And when we thought that the feelings overtook us, we developed these other controlling aspects that said, you know, no more this, no longer this. So this only played out until the humankind was ready enough to say, well, you know, I'm equally balancing the two. And when this is so, we just feel it because we're ready to have the voice for both essences. But when we do, they instantly make a fusion and do this merge, which will just become you as you. Nothing will be perceived anymore like these archetypes even playing out. It will be very beautifully neutral in a way, but co-creative as well. It's very hard to explain this with physical words. Spirit's trying to understand that I'm doing my best. It's just these knowings and visions I have on a bigger level, but sometimes it's very hard to put into words, so please bear with me. But when I play this archetype, for example, in my own life, and you know that I need to share my experience as well, because it's just me being authentic and real, and I have to share how this was for me. Otherwise, it's just me giving this speech, and it has no content. So it's not just information, it's knowledge that was through experience becoming wisdom, and that creates love. More love, more love. Things grow and expand. So we didn't want to break our heart always, you know, but the broken heart is a heart that expands even more. And every experience of mine that got me to, a little, like, you know, make me feel even more vulnerable and heart open, and that's what really cracked me up. And more expansion came in, more openness, and I was able to love so much more. And my love was already big enough to embrace the whole world, and yet there's more. And every time I thought, wow, this is it, and Spirit said, there's more. I was like, oh, there's more? Yeah, there's always more. So this, for me personally, this shadow woman, this feeling being, you know, I never fully allowed her to say things in that way, just how I feel. So for instance, if I had a conversation with someone, a lot of the times I put them on a bench and like, this is how it is for me, this is how it is, this is how things are playing out in my life, almost like having that last bit of control, not to be fully in the feeling, not to be fully intimate, even with the parts that are so vulnerable and so open and so soft. So when a certain person came into my life that also showed me this aspect of mine, I said she needs her voice as well. The inner woman, the feeling being. Sometimes we can experience this as loving and not being loved the same way in return, or reciprocal activity from other people. And we will feel things, and we will feel, almost like our heart is broken, or something's missing, and there's a void. And when we will have the acceptance for us to speak it up, to say simply how we feel without blaming it on the other, without projecting on them what they're supposed to be for us, simply seeing where each person fits into our life, like a beautiful piece of the puzzle, and how they make us feel for a reason, for our mastery, then we're really going to give it voice. And that suppressed aspect of us, which was the feeling experience in life, will come out, and it will seem to get grander and grander, almost like the world is my oyster now. It's so simple. When you ask, you will receive. When you share, you will be listened to. But a lot of times we weren't always listened to in relationships because we spoke in a way that was too much coming from that already shielding protection self, like that controller archetype. So when we acknowledge both aspects and the play that they played out in the grandness, the grand scheme of things in creation, then we will see what's our next step. And the next step can come before this fusion, this co-creative merge takes place. And so when you see that, instead of saying goodbye to people or trying to let them go through, I don't know, rituals, prayers, cutting them off out of your life, go within and see why are they there, because you're going to come back, maybe not with the same person, but the energy will come back until the point you're ready to integrate it fully, fully, fully. And I know this wasn't easy for those of you, especially who are creation pillars, because you work on this aspect that goes to the very core of our essence, who we are as a as a true human. And recently my sister mentioned that a lot of us felt that we need to process for the collective, and I received guidance maybe even a year ago that this is no longer so. But we had this responsibility because we felt so responsible for miscreations, for things that weren't always right, that we created this overprotecting aspect of us. And so this overprotective aspect took this as sometimes you had relationships where you felt you're playing the bigger role, or you being always the responsible one, or you always being the giver. That's that aspect I'm talking about. And this means that now we're really ready to let it go. And what we're doing, we're not doing for the collective or for others, because everyone needs to have the ability, the access to become their own sovereign. But we do that on our own creation self-based template. The template of our twin soul, the template of our soul group, of our oversoul, and our own overlighting, illuminating presence. So this game gets very real now. It really is all about us. It never has been about others. And a lot of times the people who we've been seeing as our almost like we've been a victim to a certain person who felt like they're our victimizer, we're now seeing them as a being who actually loves us so much on a soul level that they had the soul agreement with us to play this out so we could see those aspects. And not necessarily that person will be also on this path of being a creation pillar, because where we are now, not everyone is going as deep as moving to the very core of our creation self and what we have been learning since the fall, what the humankind has been experiencing since the fall, and now as we move into this new age, what we're here to integrate. So this path is there, it's for everyone, but I'm just saying that not now, where we are as a collective, everyone is ready. And people will still be, some of them still just maybe scrapping the surface and saying, oh, these basic things like, oh, let them go, they don't serve you, this person's not good enough for you, or they don't deserve you. This is still just a very shallow aspect of who we truly are. We are much more than that. And when we're willing to look, okay, what am I saying when I'm saying this? Am I not good enough for myself? Because if you ever try to do the reversal on you, you say something to another like, you don't deserve me. What you're saying is you're saying to yourself, you don't deserve me. Oh, do I really think that? Maybe not necessarily the whole of you, but a part does. An aspect of you does. And I'm not saying when you meet someone and people say, oh, they're your mirror. They're a mirror for a particular energy essence being played out, not the whole. Let's say you're so beautifully loving and everything, and you meet a person who is not that much, but they're still your mirror because they're showing you aspects of you that are still allowing for you maybe to be not fully authentic. You're not fully claiming the responsibility for this creation work you're doing within you or anything like that, but they're there. So anyone being there is already our mirror. That does not mean our ultimate mirror, but they are a mirror to a particular type of experience we have signed up to do, to engage with, so we can move deeper in the core creation self level. And as you know, since I started this work with Serapina Light on my page, and with Ascension and the Illumination and the Shekinah work of the Sacred Sexual Life Force, I have been moving so much deeper into this core creation self level. Because the seraphim, which is this essence of our own creation self, holds our template for our highest potential as beings. And this is what I've been really pushed towards. It's just natural push, but this is what was coming forth more and more ever since I started unveiling this type of work that I signed up to do. So when you have these beautiful relationships, honor them. Even if you feel a lot of them maybe will still feel uncomfortable to you, or you won't like certain aspects of it, but ask yourself what is there. And when you try, for example, this energy dynamics plays out between the two people. They go and they come back a bit, and then you come back again and again. It's spiraling. This relationship has its own spiral. It's not linear. It's not you meet them, okay, you exchange something, then you part ways. People who are, sometimes you even meet people of soul group. They will be there, and they will be devoted to you even more. But it's like this spiraling process is taking place. So you meet up, you trigger something, you see these aspects, you have to do inner work, then you come back again, okay, assessing where you're now, doing more work, synthesis again, and coming apart again, back to synthesis. So it's basically how it is. So it's a very beautiful work. It's a very honorable work in a way, and basically it's just who we are. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. For this next coming week, I have an amazing surprise topic for all of you. It has to deal with going deeper into this Atlantean stuff. So I'm sure you're excited about that. And thank you for those of you who are sending me your feedback, sending me love. Well, love is basically we are. We don't even need to send love, you know that. And for sharing your experiences or donating, thank you so much for that. And you know who you are. And if you're prompted to do so first time, well, thank you so much. And there's more things on my webpage, like mastery courses and galactic signature, and more to come. So stay connected, and I'll see you soon. So much love and wisdom and power.